What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? My name's Scyushi, and we're back again for some more E3 related content. So what we're going to be doing in today's video, I'm going to be using basically the footage from my reaction videos. If you guys haven't already checked them out, quite literally, it's just me doing an actual live reaction to each of these games at E3 as they ended up being announced. What this video is going to be covering is the games that I'm most excited about, because there was some games in those videos that, you know, just kind of came and went. I wasn't really excited about it, and it was more specifically focused on me actually having a genuine reaction to whether these games were good or bad. So what today's video is going to focus on is just the good ones, just the ones I'm excited for, and on top of that, share with you guys some of the information that I now have about some of these games. So let's start out with Minecraft Dungeons. Originally, this was shown at the Xbox press conference for E3, and with it, it means at the end of the trailer, they teased that this game was going to be releasing on Xbox One and the Windows Store. I can confirm that this game is actually going to be launching on all consoles, Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and the Windows Store, which means that we have it on PC as well. To top that all off, you can actually sign up for the Minecraft Dungeons beta right now by going to their website. Minecraft Dungeons has me really excited just because I have always enjoyed the Diablo games, but they never were something that I could really fit on my channel. Also, just the game itself, like unless you're streaming it or something like that, like it's very difficult to produce videos for Diablo that end up being exciting, at least for somebody like myself. Whereas with this game, I think that you guys will really enjoy watching it along with me really enjoying playing it, because again, I'm a huge fan of the Diablo style of gameplay, and as I've overanalyzed the Minecraft Dungeons trailer, it looks really sick. They've got like proper references to Minecraft where you can use like a corrupted beacon. That's what the character ends up using as a laser beam of death, which is basically a copy and paste ability from the wizard from Diablo 3. So I'm definitely excited about this. Phantasy Star Online 2, really excited about this English port. I played the Japanese version, although I don't remember my stats or server I was on or anything like that, just because I saw some of you guys commenting about it. Phantasy Star Online 2 is going to be an over-the-shoulder action dungeon crawler. I guess I would relate it to the closest we've ever come to a Devil May Cry MMO game. It's got a pretty heavy emphasis on combat in general, but the biggest thing that takes the cake is that pretty much every enemy in the entire game is going to end up having some form of rare drop and equipment. It's kind of interesting that they're porting this game now, because this game's literally like over 7 years old. Like that's older than the lifespan of Trove. But they did launch it as an exclusive for Xbox One and Windows Store, which means that if you own the game on Xbox One, you can install it on your Windows computer, and simultaneously, if you buy it out of the Windows Store, you can launch it on your Xbox. So at least we get crossplay over Xbox and PC. Then we got Borderlands. Obviously, I've got my pre-order for this game. I don't care how mature this game might be with some of its, well, toilet humor, I guess I should say. It's kind of a more adult-oriented game, but the humor has always been god-awful in these games. Either way, to reference Diablo again, this is pretty much the best type of first-person shooter RPG that there is, because it quite literally is going to have loot boxes and bosses and rare drops of procedurally generated guns. So that means you could get a gun that actually generates as a little summon, and the gun is going to walk around on the ground and shoot things for you. Maybe you get a sniper that shoots rocket launcher ammo, and basically this is the third iteration, and honestly, you can't really go wrong with Borderlands. Not to mention the classes look absolutely awesome. I'm gonna be using the Flakmaster, I think he's called, the dude that they show near the beginning where he summons a bunch of creatures and is the sniper character, because I always mained the sniper whenever I was playing Borderlands. Now, despite the adult potty sense of humor and stuff like that, you can definitely expect to see this game on the channel when it comes out in September. Elden Ring, we don't really know anything about, just give it to me. Basically, this is going to end up being Miyazaki and the boys designing a new Dark Souls type of game that apparently has been in the works for quite a while, but it's based on the Game of Thrones lore, which to me just translates into it's going to end up being another Dark Souls because it's medieval themed. I'm a big fan of the Dark Souls franchise. Even though I didn't really care that much about Sekiro, I still enjoyed my time with with it, and I'm really excited to hear more about Elden Ring and whether or not it's multiplayer. Now, the Final Fantasy VII Remake is something that is kind of hit or miss. There's a lot that I have to say about this game, but most of all, it's because there is a lot to talk about, and I'm also a big fan of the original Final Fantasy VII. So one of the original things that I heard about this game is that it was going to take place on disc 1. Now, for those that don't know, the original Final Fantasy VII was actually played over the course of 3 discs because there wasn't enough space for the entire game. Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to take part on 2 Blu-ray discs, which tells me, like, that's a lot of content right there. But apparently, this is just episode 1, and it's not going to be taking part in the entirety of disc 1 from the original game, but instead is going to take place in the tutorial town of Midgard. Granted, there's a lot of content that you can end up getting out of the first town, but it was a little bit disappointing for me when I heard that the entirety of the Final Fantasy VII Remake episode 1 was going to be taking place in this one town and not expanding upon the open world, the chocobos, the airships and vehicles and stuff that you end up getting later in the original Final Fantasy. Now, this does seem to be a true remake where they're putting huge emphasis on all of the main plot points and all the main deals that were in the original game, but I'm curious whether or not this game is going to feel like a full complete product or if it's going to feel like it's dragged out. The reason why I have a problem with this game not taking part on the entirety of the original disc 1 was because disc 1 covered a lot of content in the original Final Fantasy VII. The fact that Final Fantasy VII Remake is only covering the town means that we don't know how many episodes we're going to end up seeing. We could see 5, 6, and more episodes released for Final Fantasy VII Remake before we end up getting the entire story done. Which has me curious about people that aren't fans of the original. Are people really going to drop down $80 a pop for each individual episode, let alone all of the collector's editions? Because if you don't know, I obviously ended up buying the most expensive collector's edition, which was close to like $500. I don't bat an eyelash to it, but that's most of all because my actual job, my career, is doing Let's Plays and playing games on this YouTube channel. I'm not trying to flex on you or anything like that. I'm just saying that I can approach games a little bit differently than the casual consumer. And the casual consumer, I don't know if they would be willing to drop down $500 per episode of Final Fantasy VII's Remake. Not to mention, we don't know how many episodes there's going to end up being. Now, the biggest topic for discussion that I wanted to bring up is whether or not this game is going to continue your progress from disc to disc or episode to episode. This wouldn't be as much of an issue if we just had 3 episodes total, the same as the original 3 discs. But the fact that we don't know how many episodes this is going to be means potentially, even for a casual player, let's just say that there's 5 copies of the game, even pricing those games at the standard $80 each, which I'm Canadian, by the way, that's why they're so expensive, that would still be $400 just to play the entirety of this game. Now, in their defense, they have actually said that this Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to feel like a fully fleshed out game. You're going to end up playing it over 20 hours for sure, but I'm still curious what they're going to end up doing with it and where the plot points are going to end up taking part, or whether or not they're going to really flesh out the area or feel like it's dragged out. We could either have this game go of 2 ways. It could either be like Final Fantasy XIV and be absolutely awesome, or it could end up being a mess like the recent Kingdom Hearts. Square Enix also stole the show by previewing us Marvel Avengers, which is basically going to end up being an online MMO Avengers game that I remember was actually announced years ago as a rumor and is now actually confirmed as a full-on game. So there's quite a few things that we can confirm about it. Most of all, even though I say it's an MMO, again, this is going to be a game that's kind of similar to Dauntless, by which I mean that this game is going to end up having a main hub base, but the difference is that I don't know whether or not you're going to actually see other players in this hub base, or maybe you're just going to end up loading into missions that are going to end up being co-op. The game says it's going to have multiple medium-sized worlds instead of one big expansive open world, so I would hope that that means you could just drop into a level, mess around and explore and do quests and stuff like that. There's going to be alternate costumes for the heroes. There's also going to end up being a skill tree to customize your abilities, and DLC characters and new environments are going to end up being free far into the future. Now, what I'm most curious about with this game is, since you're going to be playing as the Avengers, as the Marvel characters, rather than just creating your kind of new generic hero, does that mean that we're going to be able to go into a level and have 4 Iron Man, or is the game going to kind of pigeonhole and force players into playing with one specific character? Maybe there can only be 1 Iron Man per level kind creative thing. The game apparently does have a single player campaign, but also has co-op levels, so I'm really curious to see what's going to end up happening with this game. Now we're moving on to Nintendo. Luigi's Mansion 3 is absolutely killing it. I'm definitely gonna get this game. Apparently you can only play through the campaign locally by a second player actually using Gooigi, which is really, really cool. But then they also have a 4-player/8-player weird multiplayer mode that they did actually show off on Nintendo Treehouse. Basically, it's going to be a bunch of empty corridors that lead to very specific rooms. The generation of it is not really the best, honestly speaking. I'm still interested in the game, and I think that the multiplayer will last a little while, but I don't think it's going to end up staying around forever. Either way, I'm excited about this title. I never played Luigi's Mansion 2 because it was handheld, so I'm really excited to get Luigi's Mansion 3. Zelda Link's Awakening, you know, I have nothing but good things to say about this game. It was the original, the OG Zelda game that was on the Game Boy. It was the first one. It also had a lot of references to Mario characters that were actually inside the universe, including like Chain Chomp and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about this. They also showed more gameplay of it on Nintendo Treehouse and the custom dungeons. So you can customize dungeons for yourself. I don't know whether or not you can just play other people's dungeons yet. Maybe they mentioned it somewhere. But the cool thing to consider is that this is actually the DX version of the game. So that's the colored version of the game. For you kids that don't know any better, back in the day, there was two different Game Boys. There was one that was black and white and one that was colored. There was two versions of this game as well, where the original one wasn't colored, and then there was going to be the colored re-release that ended up fixing a bunch of bugs, but it also ended up releasing a colored dungeon. The reason for this is because it had varying color mechanics that needed to have it in color instead of being in black and white. In black and white, you wouldn't be able to tell what you're doing. Either way, I'm excited about it, and I can't wait till they let me finally pre-order it on the Nintendo eShop, because for some reason you can't yet. Banjo also came out for Smash. I don't care about Joker or Dragon Quest, but I definitely want to end up getting my hands on Banjo because he's awesome. And then it's only a rumor right now, but Amazon Germany might have accidentally leaked that there is going to be a new Banjo game coming on the Nintendo Switch. I would say that this is a very high probability, just because any character that we've seen released on Smash Bros. Has always been coinciding with some form of release or cross promotion with other games. So Joker, for example, comes out hyping out Persona, and apparently there is a new Persona game coming out for the Nintendo Switch. The hero from Dragon Quest comes out while they're simultaneously going to be having a bunch of Dragon Quest themed games coming out for the Nintendo Switch this year. And Banjo comes out later this fall, so possibly by then we might end up hearing some new info about a new Banjo game, which I would love that. That would be awesome. Unfortunately, we didn't hear anything about Metroid Prime 4 this year, which is very disappointing. It makes sense though, because they ended up rebooting the game. So for those of you that don't know and are a Metroid fan, what basically happened was Nintendo was going to end up using a completely new set of developers to make the new Metroid game. Big mistake. That's stupid. The original developers are the OGs. These are the ones that ended up making this 2D Metroid game come into 3D seamlessly. So long story short, they ended up canceling that project and moving back to developing Metroid Prime 4 with the original developers. It means that we're going to see this game probably only in a couple years, but at least we're going to get the trade-off of it being a better game for it. So I can wait. And then to everybody's surprise, we actually saw a kind of teaser / announcement trailer showing that they've actually started development on Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. I am 100% totally sold on this. There is actually some speculation of who the bad guy is going to be and whether the game is possibly going to end up having some form of co-op because they show Zelda so much in the trailer. Personally, I think that more than likely we're going to see Zelda at the beginning intro version, and then maybe you'll have a couple co-op missions that you can end up doing with her, or a couple co-op actions or something, and then she'll probably end up getting kidnapped, because these Zelda games are generally very solitary experiences. If they do, however, surprise us with co-op, I mean, I'll take it. Now, as for the bad guy, who's he going to be? Ganondorf, Agnem, just a physical reincarnation of what Ganon actually is? Well, there's actually a couple speculations of what this character is going to be, and the highest probability is that he's going to actually be Zant from Skyward Sword. There's actually a really interesting post on Reddit that talks about some of the similarities of the character and of some of the poses and stuff. It really overanalyzes it, which is pretty impressive, but I mean, Nintendo fans are crazy, so I expect nothing less. This guy went as far as trying trying to reference the death poses of all of the different Ganons to see whether or not any of them died in the pose that this character has in the trailer, which sounds insane, and it is, but apparently Zant actually poses like this a lot, and there's also a theme song to Zant's character that sounds very, very similar to what we actually see in this opening trailer. Another reference to Skyward Sword is the fact that at the end, the castle starts rising out of the ground, and apparently as far as the Zelda lore is concerned, Hyrule Castle was actually built sometime around Skyward. So we could possibly see Breath of the Wild taking place up in a giant flying open world. Maybe this will end up being more of a reference to Skyward Sword, but I don't know. A lot of it's just speculation right now, and as far as I'm concerned, let's just wait and see, but I do think that it's an interesting topic for discussion. The other thing too that I noticed while going through this trailer in slow-mo and overanalyzing it and stuff like that is that there's actually a hand very similarly to the Master Sword sticking out of this darkness, sticking out of this evil character. So maybe that's going to end up being the hand that's actually keeping this darkness at bay. But we see a few references in the trailer where Link actually has control over this hand. So this could possibly end up being some type of new gameplay element. Maybe it's a direct reference to the Twilight, which apparently also had something to do with Zant and his character. Maybe the hand even is referencing Midna or something. Now, as far as Nintendo is concerned, they don't like rehashing things. I'm not expecting to see any old characters returning, more so that it might be a reference to an older character. Apparently, as far as the Zelda lore is concerned, there's a character that actually is even older than Ganon and is the original evil of the entire game franchise, called Demise. So we could possibly see this being the main villain in the game, but I'm still leaning towards it being some type of physical form of Ganon. So maybe the Wizard Aghanim or Ganondorf or something like that, because technically speaking in Breath of the Wild, we didn't really see Ganon. He was just kind of a darkness, kind of a calamity. Anyways, that's gonna do it for me today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. What did you think? You know, I'd love to see your speculations and theories in the comments down below. Really, really exciting E3. For me, Nintendo definitely took it. The other thing too that I didn't get to mention in my E3 video, Mario Maker 2 originally did not actually plan for us to be able to play online with our friends. It was only with random people. Otherwise, you could play with your friends locally only, which was stupid. Nobody understands. Nintendo got a huge backlash from it. But thankfully, they've confirmed that even though Mario Maker 2 is going to be launching later this month, we aren't going to end up having co-op online with our friends at launch, but it is going to end up being something they'll patch into the game later. Thanks for watching. I would appreciate if you guys would duke in the like button, sub to join the Reptilian Army, and yeah, if there's ever anything more to cover, we could end up doing this in the future. I actually really enjoyed making those reaction videos. They were a lot of fun with you guys, just hanging out in Twitch chat. And even though this year we skipped over Ubisoft and Bethesda, that's because both of those shows sucked and didn't really show anything. Have yourselves a great day though, everybody. Sayonara, and stay epic.